In my own words, how I got to this point is I was a ham as a kid. I grew up in a row home neighborhood outside of Philadelphia. Research shows we look in the mirror 12 to 52 times a day in a reflective surface in glass on our phone. You already have that ability. You have a Ferrari in your throat and you're driving it like a Ford Fiesta.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Rise Up For You podcast. This is your host, Nada Lena Nasserdeen. Today, I am super excited because today's guest is speaking my language, literally. Please welcome to our show, John. Hi, John. How are you today?
Hi, Nada. Great to be here. Very excited.
Thank you so much. It's an honor.
And we're neighbors, which we just found out, which is really exciting.
So every time I start the podcast, I always like to get the audience to understand like who our guest is and what they do, where they come from. So tell us a little bit about who you are in your own words.
In my own words, how I got to this point is I was a ham as a kid. I grew up in a row home neighborhood outside of Philadelphia, and I loved doing impressions. I was doing them at 5 years old in front of all of my neighbors. And when I wasn't doing impressions, I had a very severe speech impediment. So oddly, when I did the voices, there was no speech impediment. And when I was performing, it wasn't there. So when I got into first grade, I was diagnosed, and I spent 8 years in speech therapy, which helped me a lot, gave me a really clear understanding of how the human voice works. And with that, I kind of reverse engineered a lot of different voices because I was one of these kids. I'm one of these people who want to be everything. I want to be an actor and a writer and a filmmaker and a comedian. But over time, as I did become a professional performer, it was my voice that got me all of my work. And I grew into a pretty well-known impressionist, and I was on Conan for 5 years. I was on Howard Stern for 3 years. I was on all the late night shows supplying voice work. And at the same time, since 1996, I have been a corporate MC and host for national sales meetings of Fortune 100 to Fortune 500 companies. And the last few years, I've thought, I have something to say because I've learned, because I have to use my voice every single day, and I'm very conscious of it, that the average person only uses 38% of their vocal range and capacity. Now, you're different. You have vocal training. But the average person who's getting up on stage or is an influencer or is trying to persuade or lead or communicate, they have this incredible gift, this strategic asset that they have never, ever trained. They'll work out every day. They'll go to the gym. They're an apex predator. They're, a peak performer, but they never think about their voice. And there's two reasons for that. That's because the human head lowers your voice about a full octave. So your voice sounds deeper and richer than it actually is. And there's a thing called auditory attenuation, which blocks out your voice. Your brain blocks out your voice on purpose because you would drive yourself crazy processing all the details of every single word you say, as you do when you're listening to a friend. So I try to drive home the point that the way you think you sound and the way you actually sound are two totally different things. And if you're not where you want to be in your business, if you're not where you want to be in your sales, if you're not influencing or persuading people the way you think you should be, it is most likely your voice at this point in the game. So I'm trying to get people to get vocal training so they can expand and use their vocal range and capacity to its fullest. You're using 62% of your voice on the table.
Yeah, I love this topic, and you are absolutely right, because I mean, obviously when I was a performer, I didn't know I was going to be in this industry today, right? Which is public speaking and being an entrepreneur. But I can tell you that I quickly realized when I started my business and I knew nothing about entrepreneurship, I quickly realized that my performance training and my vocal training was helping me grow my business fast. Because I can tell that when I would walk into a room with other leaders and entrepreneurs and how they would present themselves, and then I would stand up and it was like a totally different dynamic shift, I was able to recognize, oh, my vocal training and the presence and the emotion and the dynamic that I use in my voice is something that most people haven't cultivated, right? It was like this epiphany for me. It's really funny. I'm going to geek out here just for 1 second.
Please, this is my favorite thing. I'm so happy about this.
Were you born in Pennsylvania?
I was born in Philadelphia. I was born right outside of Philadelphia, but my parents were both Philadelphian.
Okay, I was born in Pennsylvania as well. And you tell your story about having a speech speech impediment, and we must be like soul siblings, because I had a speech impediment until I was a senior in high school.
Wow.
And the only time you didn't hear it is when I sang, which is why I took to music. And I remember looking in the mirror when I was a senior and being like, okay, I'm about to go to college. I need to break it. And looking at my mouth and playing with my tongue and trying all these different things because the speech therapist didn't work for me. Like I had them pretty much my whole young adult life. So I just think it's fascinating, the parallel around, kind of how we got to where we are today.
Yeah. Well, because what I've learned so much from the speech therapist and other vocal training, but there's voluntary speech and there's involuntary speech. So the involuntary speech is the speech we have all day on the trade show floor, at our meetings, all this kind of stuff. But when you activate it, when you sing, or I start doing an impression of Trump or someone like that. Excuse me. My brain, your brain, we're shifting to a different place. So all of a sudden we are now attuned to everything. You're attuned on stage and hitting that vocal note. I'm attuned to having an emotional moment, but we fall back into it. We fall back into our involuntary speech. And one of the things I always mention to people when I speak to them is our voice locks in anywhere from 22 to 25 years old. It locks in. And you and I are different in the sense that we had a speech impediment and we're dealing with a speech therapist and speech pathologist. And I'm a trained tenor and I was doing impressions. But for the average person, they don't think of their voice.
Yeah.
In any shape, way, or form. And I always start when I speak, I say, who here's heard their voice recorded? Everyone puts their hand up. And I say, who here hates their voice? People cannot get their hands up fast enough. They're knocking each other over because everyone hates their voice for multiple reasons. Like I said, your voice are two different things. The voice you think, the way you think you sound, and the way you actually sound are two different things. I want to bridge that gulf. I want to close that delta, so to speak. But they're never thinking about their voice, and they're finding themselves in front of 5 people, 500 people, 5,000 people, and they don't know what to do. They take speech like, okay, when you're on stage, make sure your back is straight, but they're not thinking about voice. And my theory on voice is if you work on your voice, if you work on your dynamic range, a lot of that speech will come naturally because it'll just happen because now you're focusing on your voice. You're focusing on those moments and pausing and kind of broadening out your vocal sound, your range. And a lot of people, like I said, they don't think about it because they can't hear it. The voice was set when they were 25, but you need to do an upgrade and you need to do it all the time.
Yes, I love this. Okay, so let's jump into this because I know for sure with our clients and with our audience, like the ability to influence and communicate in an effective way is one of the top things that they like to learn about. It's always like the most popular thing. So let's jump in. For those that are listening, where do we start? How do we start? What are the first few things that you would say?
The first thing that I always say are the simple things. And you know all of these exercises. But just to explain the basics, you have to think about it. It's like when you go to the gym, okay? And I'm sure you work out. We all live here in Las Vegas. We live in a time when you're on stage, you need to work out. I go to F45 every day.
Yes.
And when you train with anybody, if you're in group training, solo training, anything, if you're working let's say you're working your bicep, what do they tell you? Think about your bicep. Picture where, everything's got to be, you have to be present in what you're doing if you're working out. And if you think about your voice, the first question I ask people is, how many vocal cords or vocal folds do we have? And a lot of people are like, and I say, before you answer that, Mariah Carey has a 5-octave range. Tim Storm has a 10-octave range. So think about it. And they're like, oh God, 6, 8. I go, we all have 2. We all have exactly the same 2 vocal cords. And if you think about the hummingbird shouldn't be able to fly. We shouldn't even be able to speak. This thing is miraculous in what it can do. So if you can just think about your voice, think about it. And now I want you to take another step. If you're going to come on this journey with me about learning about your voice, I want you to have an avatar for your voice. Think of something. Every single day, research shows we look in the mirror 12 to 52 times a day in a reflective surface in glass on our phone. If you were thinking about your voice 12 to 52 times a day, you would have the control of Pavarotti. So what I'd like you to do is figure figure out a way to make your voice into, and it can always change. Your voice can be a horse, it can be a rock, it can be a blob, but bring your voice to life so you can actually see it. And with that, you can start, once you start thinking about it, you can start changing it and expanding it and upgrading it and finding out those type of things. And the most important thing, and you know this as a singer, is just warming up your vocal cords.
Yeah.
And I like to do the lip roll because it's funny and people don't do it. And that they're like, oh, that kind of tickles. That's kind of fun. Yes. Now you're aware. And it's not your voice necessarily, but it's at least a start.
Yeah. It's funny. You took me back to an opera coach that I had when I was in college. And the way that she explained it to me really was an epiphany for me. And she said, when you go to the gym, because you were talking about going to the gym and working out, you work out your muscles, you stretch maybe an hour, whatever, 2 hours max.
Right.
But a lot of people don't realize that your voice is also like a muscle. And most of us are using it all day long. It's one of the parts of our body that we are consistently using. Some of us are talking from 8 o'clock in the morning till 8 o'clock at night in meetings and on stage.
Like this.
Yes, but very few people warm up. Very few people, stretch it like they would go to the gym. They don't train it as if it was a bicep. And so it can be damaged very quickly. And most people forget that it's even there, right? And that they need to take care of it. So I really like that.
And it ages their voice.
Let me ask you something. What if you had world-class leadership and confidence training available 24/7, right at your fingertips? That's what we've created with the Rise Up For You Success Academy. So for less than $1,000 a year, you'll find hundreds of on-demand training videos, live group coaching every month, exclusive assessments, one-to-one coaching, and tools designed to help you grow your confidence, sharpen your leadership, improve how you communicate, business strategy, and so much more. So whether you're an individual looking to accelerate your career or your business, or maybe you're a company that wants to invest in your people, the Success Academy is your professional growth hub. Don't wait until the next opportunity passes you by. Join us today at riseupforyou.com, head to our academy, and unlock your next level of success.
And one of the impressions I do when I'm doing comedy is I like to do Bill Clinton, because Bill Clinton speaks all the time, but he does this thing where he literally empties his entire lungs and he's just crushing his vocal cords, right, Hillary? So, what is voice? Voice is breath. Voice is breath. So consider this. There's this big thing going. A friend of mine has become a certified breathing expert, but I kind of laugh. I go, but that's kind of foo-foo. But breath is life. Breath is voice. So if you're breathing properly and if you're getting that air coming over through those vocal folds, it makes it so much easier. And I was talking to another singer about this. You can hear when some people's voice have become brittle and kind of older and they sound older. Man, and I'm going to go, I love Mariah Carey only because she's such a perfect example. Someone who has such an incredible range, works incredibly hard. But if you listen to most professional singers, they have beautiful speaking voices, because it doesn't matter if you're vocalizing with song or vocalizing with speech. It's essentially the same thing. And we are in a time when more people are talking on podcasts, on Facebook, on Instagram, on LinkedIn. And here you have, what are you communicating with? Your voice, and no one's thinking about it. So that's one thing I just want to drive home. And you can go online and there's so many exercises. There's 5-minute exercises, 7, 8-minute exercises that can really warm your voice up. I was in an MP. I was mentioned to you, I was in MPI last week. Because of my speech impediment, I have to do not just a vocal warm up. I have to do a number of tongue twisters before I get on stage. Doesn't matter if I'm doing comedy, impressions, or speaking. I have to run through that, and I have that level of confidence that my tongue placement is in the right place, and my jaw placement, and all those little things that the average speaker isn't thinking about, but they should, because when they go on the floor to do their workout or they're driving down the street in their car, these are the things they're taking care of so they can get from place A to place be. And if you don't do that, you're not being as effective as you possibly can with your voice. And your show is about communication. And why would you handicap yourself? Why would you tie one arm or two behind your back when your single most important thing is communicating?
Yeah. And I think that, a lot of, like you said, a lot of times people aren't aware of it. And so I often get executives, speakers, hey, how come I'm not making the influence? I'm an expert in my field. I know what I'm talking about. I'm really great. And I say, it's the delivery. It's how you're delivering, because, within the 10th of a second, somebody is deciding if they want to continue to listen to you, right? They're making judgments. Whether your voice is low or whether it's high, like our brain is already deciphering what kind of person is it. Can we trust them just based off of the voice and the tonality? So if for anybody else that's listening, we talked a little bit about, we have the 2 vocal folds, warming up a little bit. Anything else, like a practice that you think can help them start to build self-awareness around their voice, their sound?
I do a couple of things in my keynote. I want to make this simple for people. I always talk about habit in my keynote, Atomic Habits. I'm sure you read Atomic Habits.
Yes, I have it.
Talk about like one thing, read one page, do one push-up. Here's the one thing you can do. We're all texting so much. We're all, texting. This is the simplest thing I can recommend. Stop texting with your hands. Start recording with your voice. Record every text. It's going to transcribe anyway. They're going to get it. All right. You're going to get 2 things out of this. Every text, record it. Listen to your voice. How do you sound? Listen with intentionality. Listen. Is that the voice I want representing me? Is that the warmth I want? Is that the urgency I want, depending on what the message is? Because you're communicating like this with no tone, with no input, but you want to have it because that's the whole reason you're sending the message. So you're cutting out the real true ability to communicate. And that's one thing. So listen back to your voice. Secondly, we all have to do this. We all have to send emails to close deals. That's important. You need that in writing. But if you can get on the phone with the person, close the deal on the phone. If you're talking about being a leader or being a salesperson or whatever it is, it's easy to go, please buy my book. No, thanks. But if you're able to make that call and go, I think my latest book is going to be so impactful for what your company's doing and what your people are doing from what you had told me. So I really feel that if you can buy 500 of my book, but we've moved away. Everyone's talking on stage and communicating, but in the most important moments, we're not using our voice to close the deals that we need to close. So that's the other thing. And this is another thing I end each section with kind of a hint on how to improve your voice. If you can, it doesn't matter if it's an iPhone or an Android phone, you can record your phone call. Ask the other person if you can. I've noticed, and the research proves, that when you're on a phone call and you're like, well, okay. And I'm from Philadelphia. If the little things, especially if you're in a very comfortable call, the little ticks come out, the little throat clearing things come out, the ums and the ahs. If you can listen to those phone calls, and it's a commitment, but working out is a commitment. You need to upgrade your voice. So if these are the little things that you can do, then of course, get in front of a camera, deliver a speech, read a news article, make sure, it's kind of each little element, voice text, voice phone call, in front of the camera, kind of build out and think of an actor or actress that you would like your voice to be like. I'm not saying impersonate them. What are the elements that you're finding? And it doesn't have to be an actor or an actress. Les Brown, big speaker who I love. God, I've seen him speak so many times. It's amazing. And I think everyone knows this is the Harvard study from like 25 years ago. They have found only 7% of what you say is the words. The rest is your voice and your body. So that shows you that it is, listen, we all need great content, but your voice connects. And there was some other research from a couple of years ago I thought was fascinating. When people used to turn on the TV every morning, it could be Good Morning America or, any of the shows that were on or a radio show locally, people used to play those in the background. Not so much now because we're getting away from that. But it was the comfort level of that DJ's voice or that radio guy on a talk radio station or the Good Morning America crew. It's this weird thing. You start connecting with people's voices. Find out why you connect with certain voices. And if you can kind of emulate those qualities, because those people are not hired by accident.
Yes,
there's
that's right.
something in their voice that has a warmth to, this is morning show specifically, that has a warmth to it, it's soothing, it's comforting. And that's an amazing thing. Now, you may not want soothing and comforting in your leadership style. It might be somebody else, but look for those people that you respond to. I love Gary Vaynerchuk, but his voice is like nails on a chalkboard, but it won't be him. So I'm always trying to upgrade my voice. My voice was very high up to about 10 years ago, and I made sure to lower my voice an entire octave. Because it was the cobbler's shoes. I was, here I am on stage performing all the time, but I noticed my own speaking voice was not where I wanted to be because we were on autopilot. 40% of what we do every day is autopilot, and the biggest chunk of that is our speaking and communicating.
Yeah, and I love the phrase that you keep saying, upgrade your voice, because that is essentially absolutely what it is. And most of the time when we wake up in the morning, we default to our morning voice, and then we sit here and we talk down here for the entire day, and we forget that we need to
and it's more important than ever because I updated my keynote because so many of the meetings that I host, the keynote speaker comes out as AI. And I'm thinking, I'm hearing a lot of AI voices. I've been hearing them for the last 5 years. I've lost some voiceover work to AI. And I did a deep dive on the AI voices. They are spending, and I want everyone to hear this, AI is spending millions and millions of dollars and hundreds of thousands of hours of research with live linguists, live speech pathologists, live psychologists on voices, on human voices. And these voices aren't being locked in at 25 years old. They're upgrading constantly. They're using the science that is out there to be more impactful, to be more persuasive, to be more influential. And you already have that ability. You have a Ferrari in your throat and you're driving it like a Ford Fiesta. This is everything. Unfortunately, with AI, everything's going to pass a lot of people. A lot of people are going to be cut out of a lot of jobs. But here's something that is uniquely human. They're trying to emulate the human voice. You already have it, but you're using 38% of it. Don't be left behind right now. Find a vocal coach if you can, where you live, or go online. Don't use AI vocal coaches.
No.
Because they're stealing your voice. Found that out through an AI friend of mine who works in AI. They're actually stealing your voice. But there's lots of vocal tests online. There's great coaching. There's amazing people out there with entire coaching programs that can take you to the next level.
I love it. John, thank you so much for this. We have to have you back because I know we can keep going and keep talking. I'd love to jump into the power section of the interview and ask you a couple rapid fire questions.
Sure, let's go.
So if you were to leave the world with one final message, we call it our golden nugget. What would be your golden nugget?
My golden nugget is never stop growing, never stop learning. There's so much out there, and we're only scratching the surface as we can meet our full potential. What I like to say is it is a moral imperative for you, meaning me, to reach your full potential.
Yes.
Once you do that, you will, if you help one other person, you've helped one other person, but it'll be far more than that. Reach your full potential. It is a moral imperative, especially at this moment in history.
Yeah, I love that. And we're very big on values here at Rise Up For You. We believe that values are what help drive your success forward and reach your potential. What would you say is a value to you that's a non-negotiable?
Getting up at 5 a.m. every day.
Okay, good.
That's a kind of a physical thing. Integrity is the most important thing. If I work with people who don't have integrity, I'll never work with you again. Do what you say what you do, deliver on time, and be on time. Don't waste anybody else's time. It is an insult to that person.
Yes.
And I've found something very interesting. I've been very lucky to work with CEOs of American Express and Verizon and all the, because I'm on stage with these guys. Those guys, they're never late.
Yeah.
You know who's late? The people who think they're important.
Yes. I love that piece of nugget that you gave. And I have one more question for you, but before I ask, where can we find you? Where can people connect? What does that look like?
You can go to my website, thejohnnydshow.com. I'm right there, and that'll take you to all my social media, and you can see me on stage and my keynote page and all those fun things we do to reach the world.
Okay, fantastic. And final question for you. As you know, the company is called Rise Up For You. What comes to mind for you when you hear that phrase?
I think of the Irish phrase, may the road rise up to greet you.
Love that.
That you're meeting your potential on the rise up.
Yes. I love that. Johnny, thank you so much for joining us today.
I'm so glad you had me on. Thank you.
Such an honor to have you. And thank you everyone for joining the Rise Up For You podcast. Again, my name is Nada Lena Nasserdeen, and every single week we're bringing amazing thought leaders, experts, entrepreneurs, executives from around the world that are here to share with you to help you and your team be your absolute best. Thank you, everyone. I'll see you next time. And John, thank you so much.
Thank you.